And they do what's called the Havana Conference. They invite all the gangsters from around the world and then from all around America. And then they also have Lucky Luciano come from Italy to Havana. And one of the first things that's kind of discussed is they're going to kill Bugsy Siegel because they're done with this guy. They're done with Vegas. And the murder of Bugsy Siegel.
Do we know who's at this meeting? Boss-wise?
There's a list of them in the back. Hold up. I can tell you exactly right now.
It's the heads of the 5 families, obviously.
Not all of them, because I don't believe Vincent Mangano was there. Vincent Mangano was head of what was now the Gambino crime family. But, no, Magliadano.
Bonanno was there.
Bonanno was there. Anastasia was there. Albert Anastasia.
A lot of them.
Albert Anastasia was basically the underboss of what's now the Gambino crime family. Vincent Mangano was the boss, but he was basically the boss in name only. Albert Anastasia ran everything. But they all come to Havana and they decide how they're going to carve up the city and carve up Cuba, who's going to own what casinos. And it's kind of decided that Lucky Luciano is going to come down, live in Havana pretty much permanently, and he's going to basically be the boss of all bosses for the American mob with like this throne in Havana. And it's a foreign...
The Americans wouldn't have got him in Cuba?
Well...
Because he wasn't allowed in America.
He wasn't allowed in America, but if he's in Cuba, and if he's in Havana, which is a foreign country,
so what?
And Havana doesn't want to prosecute him...
So what, though? America
You'll see. They also, like, they weren't planning on advertising that he was there, but it's basically like it's going to be easier for him to run it from Havana than run it from... It's going to be easier for him to run this thing from Havana than run it from Italy.
Yeah. When you said he was running the mob from Italy before, I'm like, in the 40s, how the fuck would that even be possible?
Like,
you're sending telegrams?
He's basically like... Running it is a loose term, but people are still giving Luciano a cut of everything. He's still getting a cut from everything. Frank Costello, who's kind of the boss of that family, people see him as the boss in name only. They're still giving their cut to Luciano. They're still going to Luciano for advice. A lot of these guys were born in Italy, so they would kind of say like, oh no, they would say to the government that they're visiting their family or visiting the Vatican when really they'd be like discussing things with Luciano. Right. And basically it was like, it would be easier if he was here in Havana.
Yeah.
And one of the things that happens is Vito Genovese kind of comes to Luciano before the Havana conference and tries to get Luciano to retire. Luciano...
Retire these nuts.
Vito Genovese and Frank Costello hate each other. Vito Genovese thought he should have been put as boss of the family. He thought he was looked over because Frank Costello was Sicilian and Vito Genovese was from Naples. And he comes to Luciano.
You're from that piece of dirt. I'm from this piece of dirt. That's the problem.
Well, the truth is, that's why Vito Genovese thought he was looked over. The truth is, Vito Genovese was like a douchebag and no one trusted him. Vito Genovese is like the only mob boss who supported Mussolini. He was a staunch supporter of Mussolini because he was a racist and he was an anti-Semite. And he hated Meyer Lansky because he was Jewish.
The steal. He wanted to stop the steal.
Yeah, no, he was like, this is a flawed. There were ballots found in rivers.
People are seeing amazing things.
So this riff kind of starts where people don't like Vito Genovese, and Vito Genovese kind of gets that's where his hatred of Frank Costello and kind of Meyer Lansky, who he hated anyway because Meyer Lansky was Jewish. So they decide they're going to carve up Havana. They're going to take control of the casinos, and it's working well. But Lucky Luciano gets deported because they get Frank Sinatra to come to Havana during the Havana conference to basically perform a live concert for them. So Frank Sinatra...
He was the mafia's bitch, dude.
He was. He was.
that-
and then he was flying to Las Vegas to do shows for them.
Yeah, like-
They really did. He flew wherever they told him.
He really
but the American media followed Frank Sinatra to Havana. Now they're like, oh, there's all these gangsters here, and also Lucky Luciano is here, and he's supposed to be in Italy. And there's one thing of basically Lucky Luciano and Frank Sinatra were hosting orgies in the penthouse of one of these hotels, and they basically were like, there's Frank Sinatra, there's Lucky Luciano, and there's all these hookers. And originally in the 30s,
it's kind of lit.
that's what Lucky Luciano originally went to jail for running hookers.
Well, that's what they could get him.
That's what they could get him on.
Right.
But it was basically a big FU to the government, and
Definitely.
the U.S. government came
Who was
to
President? Kennedy. No.
no.
I'm thinking
in the
when
40s,
I think of Cuba, I still think of Kennedy.
Yeah. In the 40s,
Eisenhower?
No, it wasn't Eisenhower yet. It was still Truman. This was only 1946. This was 1 year after World War II. And they came to Batista, and they're like, look, we're going to cut off aid to Cuba. We're going to cut off business relations to Cuba unless you tell Luciano to go back to Italy. And everybody's hands were tied.
Why would they make a scene like that? It's so stupid.
Because gangsters are dumb.
They really are.
Because gangsters are dumb.
I know. Because they just can't control
Because
Lucky
Luciano was like, oh, I'm in Cuba and I don't want the Americans to know. Let me host an orgy with the famous singer in the world.
Yeah. Stupid fucking idiot. Just like the Appalachian meeting. Let's have 75,000.
That also comes up
jackasses.
That comes up later on. But basically,
And then up to Gotti. I mean, it's the same shit.
Gotti fucking loved the media attention.
No, I know. And nowadays, Gene Borello just went back to prison, for running his mouth on social media. So it's they just never fucking learn. But the type of person, again, who would become in this lifestyle is not a long-term thinking person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why they couldn't wait for Las Vegas to be a success.
Unless the current boss, who's been boss of the Genovese family since 96, Laborio Bellarmi or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
He's a fucking literal ghost.
He's the guy, there's barely any pictures of him, right?
You can't even find a picture of him. There's 2 pictures of him, period.
Yeah.
And
it's
both from the 90s.
both are mugshots, right? There's 2 mugshots of him from the 90s, and that's it.
And then there's one picture of him walking with another dude, but
That's
from
insane.
25 years ago. But he's he's a ghost, and the Genovese family is currently the most powerful family.
Yeah. Well, that's
Making the most money.
That's what they were back then, because the Havana
Frank
conference.
Cali was kind of like that.
The Havana conference. It pisses a few people off. It makes a few people very happy. Meyer Lansky got a great deal out of it. It was Meyer Lansky and
Was Lansky
Santo.
there?
Lansky was there. Yeah. Lansky was basically they decided he was the main guy in Cuba. He was going to be the main guy in Cuba.
Aside from Lucky.
But aside from Lucky. Well, once Lucky's deported.
Oh, after he's deported. Yeah.
Meyer's the main guy. Santo is probably second. And then all the other mob bosses. And the 2 people who got really mad about it is one, Vito Genovese, because he thought he should be the boss over everything. And Albert Anastasia, because Albert Anastasia was kind of a boss he wasn't technically the boss of his family.
He was recognized as...
So he got the smallest cut out of everybody.
Right. Even though he really
there were some captains like Joe Adonis, who was a captain in the Genovese family, who got a better cut than Albert Anastasia. And Vincent Mangano. Vincent Mangano.
What was his official title? Underboss?
Underboss, yeah.
That's higher than captain.
Right, but a captain in the Genovese family at that time would be higher than the underboss. At that time, like, the Mangano family wasn't that powerful. They became powerful over the next, like, 10 years because Albert Anastasia was grabbing everything. Mm-hmm. He was kind of, like, scorned by Cuba.
Right.
So anyway... they decide they're going to leave Las Vegas. They murder Bugsy Siegel, who's their guy. And the murder of Bugsy Siegel is really seen as the transfer of power in Las Vegas from New York to Chicago, because a lot of the New York mobsters took their investments out of Las Vegas and into Havana.
Right.
And Chicago and kind of the Midwest gangsters, like Chicago, the Milwaukee mob, the Detroit mob, the Kansas City mob, they put a lot of their money into Las Vegas, which turned out to be, in the long run, the much better option. Because through the 70s and 80s, they were making so much money off Las Vegas casinos.